What happens when a president issues an executive order and a federal court wants to stop it, not just for the people who sued, but for the entire country? That's the question at the heart of Trump versus CASA Inc., a 2025 Supreme Court decision that sent shockwaves through the legal world. At its core, the case asks, can federal courts issue universal injunctions, orders that stop government policies nationwide, not just for the parties involved? Let's discuss what happened and why this decision matters. It all started with an executive order issued by President Trump. The order sought to redefine who is granted birthright citizenship in the United States. Civil rights groups quickly filed lawsuits, arguing the order violated the 14th Amendment and the Nationality Act of 1940. The lower courts responded by issuing universal injunctions, orders that blocked the executive order from being enforced anywhere in the country. Now, here's the issue. Those injunctions didn't just protect the plaintiffs who sued, they protected everyone, and that raised a fundamental constitutional question. Can federal courts really go that far? The Supreme Court said no. In its majority opinion, the court emphasized that universal injunctions have no basis in the history of American or English law. They looked to the Judiciary Act of 1789 and found that courts of equity, back then, only issued remedies that applied to the actual parties before them. In other words, courts could grant relief, but only to the people who asked for it directly. The court said equity is flexible, but that flexibility is limited by tradition, and in their view, universal injunctions go beyond what the law has ever allowed. The respondents, the ones challenging the executive order, disagreed. They argued that universal injunctions are like historical remedies such as bills of peace, which allowed courts to resolve disputes for entire groups. They also said that these broad injunctions are sometimes necessary to fully protect people from laws that might be unconstitutional. But the court wasn't convinced. It said that those historical remedies only applied to closely related parties, and the government's policies could still be challenged on a case-by-case basis. The court also said that just because universal injunctions might be more efficient doesn't make them lawful. Then came the policy debate. Supporters of universal injunctions argued that they're essential for protecting rights, avoiding conflicting decisions across different courts, and preventing harm from unconstitutional actions. But the government, and ultimately the court, warned that universal injunctions encourage forum shopping, where lawyers seek out favorable courts. They said this can lead to high-stakes decisions from a single judge, affecting the entire nation. In the end, the court sided with tradition. They ruled that nationwide injunctions go too far, and that courts should only grant relief to the parties with standing in each case. Importantly, the court did not decide whether the executive order itself was constitutional. Instead, it focused only on the scope of the remedy. Justice Thomas, in a concurring opinion, urged courts to issue narrowly tailored injunctions. Justice Alito raised concerns about workarounds like class actions, which could still allow for broad relief, but come with their own legal hurdles. On the other side, the dissenting justices sounded the alarm. They argued that the majority's decision weakens the power of the judiciary to check the executive branch. If unconstitutional orders can be enforced against everyone except the people who sued, they warned, it creates a law-free zone where the government can act without consequence. They also questioned the majority's strict historical focus. In their view, the Constitution allows for flexible, modern interpretations of equity, especially when fundamental rights are at stake. So, what does this all mean? Going forward, plaintiffs who want to block a federal policy nationwide will face a tougher road. They may need to rely on class action lawsuits or file dozens of similar cases in different jurisdictions to achieve the same effect as a universal injunction. And the decision has broader consequences too. It tips the balance of power, at least temporarily, toward the executive branch, and it raises new questions about how courts can protect people's rights in an era of sweeping national policies. Trump versus CASA is more than just a technical decision about legal remedies. It's a landmark ruling about the role of the courts, the reach of the presidency, and the meaning of justice in a divided legal landscape.